and also start recording. This is going to be class what, 8 or 9, or I think it's 8, right? This is our 8th class, right? 8. Yeah, that's good. Okay, good. So I'm going to write Dr. Sam, and I'm going to also write class 8. Okay, and we are on our way, and the class is being recorded as ever. Okay, so I trust that you guys have uploaded your TMA on LMS, or you are about to, right? We still have like a few more hours before the expiry date, right? So how many of you have submitted their TMAs? Pretty much everyone, I trust. Okay, like we always say, you don't have to wait until it's like 5 minutes before the cutoff date, and then you come and complain and sometimes cry, right? We don't want that to happen, because we have this time around we have zero tolerance with those who don't submit on time. Um, when the system kind of when the time is up, I'm going to download the different TMAs and I'm going to start working them. So you'll see them within perhaps 2 to 3 days. Okay. Okay, let's get down to business. Enough talk about the TMA. We've been talking about that for quite some time now. And now is the time for perhaps something else, for substance, right? Before we do just that, I also need to reflect on the experience of TMA writing. So did you find it kind of useful? I mean, the idea that you don't have regular MTAs. MTAs means whether they are midterm exams or quizzes. So this time around you have a TMA, which is an assignment that you do back home, and then you reflect on it. You go back to the book and check here, check there. Yeah, you consult a colleague, you consult the internet, and even your parents. You can even enlist the help of your parents. Did you find it different in a positive way? Tell me about it. I'll give you like 2 to 3 minutes, and you tell me what you felt about it. Did you like it? Did you like the experience? I mean, obviously this is perhaps your first time. So Fairuz is saying it was good. Okay. And Shahd also liked it. That's interesting. And Ahmed Sufyan Turki Ahmed, yes. Fairuz likes the idea that she had to depend on herself, and this is obviously perhaps one of her first times to do just that. She likes the idea. Al-Mu'taz, it was very helpful, nice. Hussein Al-Nuwaisir, new challenge. Umran, for me it's okay. Magid is saying that he submitted. Okay, congratulations, Magid, for on submitting your TMA. Good. Okay, good. Ahmad Mansour is saying, yeah, but you have the videos. Yeah, I'm counting on the fact that you have the videos, and it's all English, and we talk about stuff, right? And I was there. I dedicated a whole like office hour class where we talked about the 3 questions, and I even went out of my way and translated the stuff for you, and I don't normally do that. Okay, and whenever people came back to me asking, I never kind of uh, tell people no, don't come, don't ask. Okay. Yeah, perhaps I need to check. And when did you send that? I have so many emails here, Amira. I receive hundreds of emails. I am the coordinator of the course, and I receive from you and from other classes. But you could have sent me a reminder, my dear. Okay. If you're still waiting for a reply, I can always reply after class. If not, just let me know. Huh? Okay. So anyway, I said in 2 to 3 days, Yanas. Okay. Okay. Again, overall, people are happy about the experience. I mean, the idea of depending on yourself, depending on your own resources, consulting. Even I like the idea that people started to consult each other, to talk to each other on the group, and some of you got back to me individually, sending private emails and private and WhatsApp messages, and I tried to the best of my abilities to answer them. I'm not. Can you write in English, yeah, Amira? Yani let's keep it English, and let's keep your Arabic to a minimum. This is an English class, and I would like people to try to keep their Arabic to a minimum. Okay, Magid is saying that he had a problem with the formatting. If he can explain further, we can always help. Okay, we're giving you guys the benefit of the doubt. We're not going to be too tough on you when it comes to formatting and stuff. We know that this is your first experience. I mean, the idea is for you to practice what you do in class. The idea is for you to also depend on your resources, your own resources, and on yourselves. Okay, but you don't have to worry. If content is fine, if you have done what you're supposed to do. Okay. Yes, this is 1307. Am I correct? This is the course number, or the section number, right? Okay. Fine. Okay, so what we have on the agenda today, we're having a number of exercises, and then we go all the way to theme 3. And theme 3 promises to be very interesting, because it's again about something that is very relatable. We will talk about media, different types of media, the news, and how we get the news, and what goes into the business of news. But I think it's going to be very appealing and very interesting for everyone. Before we do just that, I would like to perhaps start with the towards the end of theme 3, there was this stress on pronouns, different types of pronouns, whether we're talking about subject pronouns or object pronouns, or even possessive pronouns. I think I have slides for that. Let me go and check them and see if we can use them. Where are they? Yes. Just give me a second. I'm opening the file. Okay, I think I'll have to open it here first before I take it to the second or the other screen. Okay, can you see that? Is that clear enough? So okay, so pronouns, everyone. So let's like we always do, let's focus on the word pronoun and what it means. So let's dissect the word. Dissect the word means that you divide it into into smaller pieces. You break it down to its basic components, and the basic components that we have here are the word pro, and then nouns. Obviously you're not familiar with the word pro. Pro is new to you, but you're familiar with the word with the word noun. Okay, can you give me examples of nouns? Examples of nouns, everyone? Yeah, book. Yeah, Rahaf is saying book. Yes. Okay, so a noun can be the name of a thing, the name of a human being. When I say Samah, Samih is obviously a noun, right? Yeah, names of yeah, like Abdel Fattah is saying countries like Egypt, machine, Mona. These are all nouns. Excellent, excellent. And when I also talk about abstract ideas, when I say love, when I say happiness, when I say mercy, when I say kindness, friendship, these are all nouns too, right? Okay, sorry. So where do you normally have a noun in a sentence? Let me remind you of the sentence. You have a subject, you have a verb, and then you have the rest of the sentence. Three basic places or basic components in a sentence. Where do you normally see a noun? You see it number 1, number 2, number 3. What do you think? When I say, okay, so unfortunately Dua is saying number 2, and number 2 is normally occupied by the verb, ya Dua. So like Ahmad Nagib is saying, it's either, no, Ahmad Nagib, you're not correct. It's either, like Mu'taz is saying, it's either number 1. So 1, when I say Samih is a teacher, so obviously Samih is a noun, right? Okay, when I say the class is full, obviously, okay, the class is a noun, right? Okay, when I say I hit the cat, so obviously the cat is a noun, right? When I say I like fruit, fruit is a noun. Okay, so nouns are either subject, which means number 1, or object, and object is number 3. You never see a noun number 2 in a sentence, because number 2 is the verb. Does this make sense? Okay, good. So we're saying nouns, and we're saying that they are either number 1 or number 3 in a sentence. Good. Right. Sometimes you if you're talking or writing and you have a noun, and you'll have to mention the noun more than once. So Dr. Sameh did this, and Dr. Sameh did that. Dr. Sameh went. Dr. Sameh came back. So repeating Dr. Sameh, or repeating Ali did this, Ali did that, Ali. Okay, this is kind of repetitive and kind of boring, right? So languages are not about boredom. If you feel bored, it's a problem, right? Okay, so what do people do? Instead of using nouns, they use pronouns. Hence the word pro. Pro in Latin means instead of, a replacement of. Okay, so the pronoun is a replacement of the noun. The pronoun is instead of the noun. So instead of saying Samih, 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 if Samih is a subject, I'm going to say he. So Sameh went to school. Sameh had lunch at 4. Sameh went to bed at 10 p.m. So instead of يعني after the first Sameh you say he. He had lunch at 4. He went to bed at 10. Okay, are you getting the idea? Okay, so we use pronouns in order to avoid repetition. Repetition is not a good thing. Repeating things over and over again would be very boring, right? Okay. So whenever you have he, whenever you have Sameh, it can be he, depending on where Sameh is in a sentence, right? Sameh can be a subject, and in this case you're going to use he. If Sameh is an object, let me give you an example. When I say I met Sameh at the university, so Sameh here is not number 1. Sameh here is number 3. I met Sameh. So Sameh here is number 3. So can I say I met he at the university? I met he? No. So you're going to say I met him, right? So I met him. So he subject and him object. He number 1 and him number 3, right? So let's look at them. Okay, as you can see, look at the board. Can you see? I'm so bored. Huh? Look at the screen. Can you see that? So in the middle, as you can see, you have either the verb or the preposition. So if you have a pronoun before the verb, it is called subject pronoun, and in this case you're going to use I, he, she, we, they, you, and it, right? Okay, after the verb or the preposition, you have, instead of saying I, you say me. Instead of saying he, you say him. And instead of saying she, her, you're going to use her. We, you're going to use us. They, you're going to use them. You will use you, and it. It's the same thing, except for the perhaps the punctuation, where the subject takes the I in it is capital, while the I in it as an object is small. Okay, is that clear? Okay, good. Okay, and I am obviously explaining it further. Okay, so this graph or table is designed to help you master the use of pronouns in terms of where they come in the sentence. Where they come in the sentence is very important, mind you, right? So the subject pronoun always comes before a verb, before the verb or a preposition. And the subject pronouns, like we said, are I, you, she, he, it, we, and they. Again, look at the graph, look at the table, look at the verb. So before, you either talking about pronouns before a verb or after it. If it's before the verb, we call them subject pronouns. I, we, they, you, he, she, and it, right? Okay. So what happens if they are after the verb or the look at the graph. See how it changes. Okay, where are we now? Are we still before the verb or after it? What do you think? We're before or after? We're after it. Very good. That's why instead of using I, we're using me. Okay, instead of using we, we're using us. Instead of using they, we're using them. You. Instead of using he, we're using him. And instead of using she, we're using her, and it. Okay, clear enough? Yeah, clear enough. Okay, And here we have a number of examples here, as you can see. So this is basically object pronouns. Give me. So obviously the pronoun is after give, which is a verb. That's why it's me. Can I say give I? Is give I correct? I'm asking you. Can I say give I? No. Give me a minute, not give I a minute, right? I want me, give it, pick them up, tell me, for me. Clear enough, I think, right? I need a small okay, can we do that? Can we do this exercise? I'll give you perhaps 2 minutes because it's easy. I need you to finish all of them, all 10, and then we talk about them. Can we do that? You guys have 2 minutes. Let's finish all of them first, and then I'll give you the opportunity to talk. Okay. I'll take your word for it. Lots of people are saying they are done, and I think they are because it's easy. We have Munira and Al-Kathiri and Fairuz. Okay, let's do them. So can you help us? The first one is done for us. Can you help us? Yeah. And the second one is also done. We usually see them at the weekend. Very good. Let's move on. Number 3, everyone. How did you teach he, him to read? How did you teach him? Excellent. Okay, number 4. I, me, write to she, her, once. Okay. So 4. We're doing 4, everyone. So I, and the second part is I write to her. Okay, I write to her. Very good. Okay, 5. He or him loved she or her very much. So it's going to be he, and then loved, and it's going to be her very much, but she or her didn't, but she didn't love. It's very strange example. Love him. Okay, good. Let's move to 6. Number 6. What do you have? Okay. Why did you ask? Okay, why did you ask? Why did you ask them? Good. To come. I or me. I or me. I don't like. I don't like. I don't like them, right? I don't like them. Okay, good. I, me, don't think she, her understands I, me. So it's going to, we're doing 7. We're doing 7, everyone. So I don't think, I don't think, I don't think, go on. She understands me, right? I don't think she understands me. Okay, good. 8. Please don't wait for us. Very good. 9. Did they or them tell she or her the news? Did they tell her, yeah, the news? Very good. Number 10, everyone. Number 10. Would you like to come with? Would you like to come with me? Excellent. Is that clear? I think it's clear enough. I don't have time to do perhaps more exam. You know what I'm going to do now so that you can do them on your own. Um, I'll show the page on the screen, and I'll perhaps stay on every page for a number of seconds so that it gets recorded and you get back to it يعني in the video. How about that? Okay, I'm going to start with the whole file. Okay, you're getting the idea, right? So these are exercises that you can go back to and complete on your own. You can always pause the video on your own and do them. I can. This is also okay. I can share the slides, and you can also see them here, Magid, on the video. Okay. So this is the last slide. Okay. Is that clear, everyone? I think we have one more, and this is perhaps more practical. So let me share it with you. I kind of liked it, so that's why I'm trying to look for it. Yeah. Mm. I think I have to take it to, where is that? I guess you cannot see it, right? At least not yet. So let me see how I can, where, so can you see it? Okay. Okay. What I want you to do is I would like you to look to read about Kiko and her family, and I would like you to give me your impressions about what you have read. There is a paragraph on this family that I would like you to read, and when you finish, tell me what you feel about it. Can you do that? I think this is more readable now, right? So it's Kiko and her family, and I'm giving you perhaps 2 minutes to read and reflect. So how smooth the paragraph is? Do you think it's smooth, soft, in other words, easy to read, not straining to the eyes or for the eyes. What is your overall impression about it? You don't feel that something is wrong with it? Yeah, it's very easy, of course. I'm not talking about Turkey is saying, but too many names. Excellent. That. This is an excellent observation, ya Turkey. Thank you so much. Too many names. Remember when we first started and we said too many names will do what? People are going to feel what? We said that people are going to feel bored, right? Okay, so in order to avoid boredom, in order to avoid being bored, you're going to use pronouns like Muhammad al-Kasiri is no pronouns, right? So this is kind of annoying, like Turkey is saying. Okay. So what are we going to say? Help me. Help me so that we can make it more readable. We can make it more perhaps fun and entertaining, right? So we're going to say kiku. Whenever you keep the first noun, obviously. You start thinking of changing this, the second noun. You don't change the first one. You don't say she is Japanese. So you start the whole thing by saying she is Japanese, right? No. You normally keep the first noun as is, and then you start with the second and perhaps the third and so on. Okay? So Kiku Wilson is Japanese, but Kiku lives in New York. But you're going to say, but she, right? She lives in New York because Kiku is married to an American, because she is married to an American. Kiku is an interpreter. You can keep this Kiku, okay? You don't have to make it all pronounced because this is equally boring, right? You have to have a balance, right? Okay. Kiku is an interpreter, okay? She likes New York because you're not going to repeat New York because obviously New York is being repeated so many times. You're going to say, so Kiku likes or she likes New York because it is interesting. It is a reference to New York. But Kiku's husband or her husband, Walter, does not like it, and it's going to be a reference to New York. And instead of saying Walter, because we have given his name first, so or before, we're going to say he wants to leave and live in the country. So Kiku and Walter, I can keep them. I can because I'm obviously starting a new paragraph. So Kiku and Walter have 2 children. Okay. So Walter takes the 2 children. So instead of saying the 2 children again, I can always use them. So Kiku takes the 2 children and the 2 children's dog. And instead of repeating the 2 children, I'm going to say and their dog out of the city in Walter's free time. And instead of saying in Walter's free time, I can always say in his free time, right? I have Walter and the children here. And instead of saying Walter and the children again, I can say they go walking in summer and skiing in winter. But Kiku doesn't go with Walter and the children. Instead of saying that Kiku doesn't go with Walter and children, I can always say, but Kiku doesn't go with them, right? Because she, instead of saying Kiku, she doesn't have any free time. So does it make sense? When you go home, I would like you're already home. I mean, when you finish from here, I would like you to write it down and see, and put them against each other and see how different they are. Okay, let's go somewhere else. Let's go to the book. Where is the book? Okay. Okay, so like I said, today is theme 3, and theme 3 is very interesting and very engaging, I promise, because it's all about news and media. Especially nowadays, we're all home, and obviously we don't have much to do, so we go to media, which is for the most part social media. Okay, we're even using media as we speak, right? We're using media. I'm using Adobe. I'm talking to you from a distance, and this is all media, right? So some people, sometimes I ask you to check a word up using the dictionary. This is media, right? Sometimes I refer you to the internet in order to read something and then get back to me. This is also media. Um, okay. So where do you get your information? Where do you get your news? You get your news through the media, whether it's traditional. Let's agree on when I talk about media, I talk about either traditional media. Traditional means that that has always been with there. When something is traditional, it's not new. Okay, so I will say traditional media, and I will say new media, right? So when I talk about traditional media, what do I mean? What goes under traditional media? I'm asking you. Google is not traditional media. When I talk, no, no. Obviously, you no. يا جماعة, I'm talking. Forget about the internet. The Facebook is not traditional, يا جماعة. Facebook, Twitter is not traditional. These are all new media. When I talk, excellent, يا عمار الجداوي is say newspapers, for example, television, radio, magazines. These are traditional يعني media outlets and sources, right? But if you talk about the internet, if you talk about Google, if you talk about Twitter and all these these are all new media. Are you getting the idea? Okay. So you have traditional media and you have new media, and new media يعني are for the most part social media, right? Okay. So do you read the newspaper anymore? Do you is it part of your habits? Is it one of your habits to perhaps in the past you would wait for the newspaper guy to come over and perhaps knock on your door and give you a hard copy of the newspaper? Did you used to have that? Have you seen? Did you used to have or to see your father or perhaps your parents do that? I mean, your father on coming home from work, he comes back with a newspaper. Okay, so we don't have that anymore, right? I mean, even newspapers are going out of business because why don't we have that anymore? Ammar is saying only on aeroplanes. Yes. Uh, Mansoor is saying that he always looks at the first and last page of the newspaper to see what interests me. Okay, good. Fairuz is saying because of the new technology. It's because of the new technology that we don't have newspapers anymore. That's correct. Okay. So again, we're seeing how newspapers and magazines are perhaps their age is up or over. We're in for new media, and by new media, of course, we mean Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, right? Okay, good. So, what is your favorite um, media nowadays? Media outlet. I'm talking about new media. Your you're a regular on what on them? Are you a regular on Twitter, for example, on Facebook, on Instagram? Instagram. Fairuz is saying Instagram. Yeah. Okay. Who else does what and where? Ahmed Turkey Ahmed is on Twitter. Shahd is using YouTube. Ahmed Nagib is using Facebook. He is obviously a regular on there. Zaki is saying Twitter. Yeah, that's interesting. So what's the difference, if any? So let's talk about the difference of these different media outlets. Let's assume that I am a caveman, and I have just come out of the cave, and you're introducing me to your world, and I need to subscribe to one of these media outlets. So what are you going to recommend and why? Everyone, I would like you to recommend me. Mansour is saying, especially after Corona and global warming, we will stop making hard copies, or actually just reduce production of hard copies for two main reasons, which are to stop transferring germs or bacteria and lessen the cut of wood around the world. Yeah, this that's interesting. This is a research paper, yeah, Mansour. It's not an answer. You're writing a research paper. Thank you so much. Well said. Okay, let's go back to the caveman, and let's recommend one of the media outlets for him. I'd like you to talk, if you recommend one of them, I would like you to tell me why, okay? So I came out of the cave very recently, like I told you, and I need to have an account on any of these media. So what are you going to recommend and why? Hmm. Fairuz is saying, I recommend Twitter, and she is saying it is more interesting. More if you say it is more interesting, you're comparing it to something else, but obviously you're not showing us what this something else. So you normally start by saying that it is interesting, right? You're familiar with degrees of comparison, right? This is something that I need to get back to you. I need to teach you how to make comparisons between two things, okay? Again, so wait a minute, wait, just give me a second. So Fairuz, if I'm going to write it correctly, I'm going to say I recommend Twitter because it is interesting, okay? And then she's going to go on and say it is more interesting than Facebook, for example, and then she starts giving reasons. Okay, Salim. I think he told me that he's not Salim, he is Salim. I'm hopeful that I'm correct. It's Salim. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, Salim or Salim. Twitter. Salim is saying Twitter because it is more a news channel than a social networking. Well said. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, Mansour is saying I recommend Twitter. It has faster news, up to date, 24/7 from all around the globe. That's interesting. Fawaz is recommending Instagram and Twitter, but he's not giving us any reasons. Slim, yeah, Slim. Okay, good. Okay, so you guys are doing an excellent job. So Ahmed Najib is saying Twitter because it is easy to use and there are many accounts for news. That's interesting. That's beautiful. I'll think about it and I'll I'll tell you which of them I'm going to choose. Okay. So again, we're talking about theme 3, and theme 3 is about news and media. And so what is it that we're going to talk about? Obviously, we have an agenda that has news, and then you have the idea of advertising, and then the values of magazines, and then finally we'll perhaps wrap up talking about media studies research reports. We're going to talk about reports that study media. So if you talk about reports, if you talk about writing, you talk about research, right? Okay, good. Okay. So we have a heading, and this is obviously listening. And it's all about news. So the early history of mass media news. Obviously, this is a pattern with the book. In every theme, you have a bit of history about what the theme involves. Remember last time we spoke about technology and the technology of transport, the transport inventions, and we engaged in a bit of history about some of these inventions, some of these or those transport inventions. For this time around, we're talking about mass media and mass media news, and we're talking about its history. I would like you to always remember that the word history, you can use the word history and you can also use the word evolution. Evolution means when something develops and moves from one stage to another. So the evolution of mass media news, or the history of mass media news use, or the development of mass media news. Okay, so we're saying media and we spoke about media, right? Okay. By the way, media is plural. Any idea what the singular form is? So media is plural. Normally, plural ends with what? Normally, if you have a noun, and in order to make it plural, you add what? S. Excellent, Feroz. You normally add S, right? Okay, good. Of course, we have exceptions. Well, we can always talk about them later. One of the exceptions would be the word man, for example. So man, men. You don't say mans, for example, right? Woman, women, right? The list is big. Those irregular. And media happens to be also one of those irregulars. Okay, where the singular is medium. So medium, medium. So medium is the singular and media is the plural. Okay, is that clear? But this is strange or irregular plural. Okay. Okay, and then you have we know about media already, no problem. Okay, when I add mass, the word mass is obviously a prefix. A prefix is a word or a part of a word that comes at the beginning of another word, and it changes the meaning in one way or another. Changes, adds to the meaning. It's a lot of things. Don't talk about the final exam yet, yeah, Magid. We're in the middle of something. Don't stop us and talk about something else. Just focus on what we're doing. And if you have a question about the exams, about the TMAs, keep them till the end of the class, like we always do. Okay, so I'm talking about the word mass. and the word mass means big, uh, big numbers. Okay, so when I say mass media, and in this case I'm talking about media that addresses so many people. Okay, you're getting the idea. Okay, so let's move down. Really look at the illustrations on the opposite page. I think I shouldn't have no, this is not the book that I want to open. I think this one is more kind of interactive. Yes. Okay, this is what I want. Okay, so look at the illustrations on the opposite page. Okay, so illustrations, let's define the word illustrations. Illustrations are images, pictures, graphs, tables, and they are meant to illustrate. Illustrate means clarify something. So illustrations are, non-text. Let me put it this way. Okay, you know what a text is? The word and the phrase and the sentence and the paragraph and the article and the book, these are all called text. But if you have a graph, if you have a picture, if you have a table, they are called non-text. Okay, we call them non-text and we call them illustrations because this is actually their function. This is what they are meant to do. What is it that they are meant to do? They are meant to illustrate. Illustrate means clarify, make clear, right? So sometimes you have a text, you have a paragraph, okay, and then you have a picture. The picture sometimes helps you a great deal, right? It doesn't, of course, answer all your questions, but at least it gets you there. Instead of reading the paragraph, before you read the paragraph, you look at the picture, you can get an overall idea of what you are in for. Okay? So pictures and graphs and charts, all of these things are called illustrations. And that's why we're having, sometimes you have a dictionary, you know what a dictionary is. And sometimes if you're, for example, in Garir or in any of these bookstores, you have a section where there are dictionaries. Okay? Okay, you have a dictionary, a normal dictionary, and then sometimes you have illustrated dictionaries. What's the difference? Dictionary doesn't have pictures, but in an illustrated dictionary you have so many pictures that explain stuff, especially for kids and children. So illustrated dictionaries are more or less for children, right? Okay, let me ask you this question. Do you have a dictionary back home? Okay, good. Is it an illustrated dictionary where you have so many pictures in it? Illustrated? Okay, let me ask you this question. Which is more common? Mansour is saying, I've never had an illustrated dictionary before. Yeah, because it's not very common, ya Mansour. You're correct. And this was my question. Which of them is more common? The regular, and I'm saying regular. If I'm saying it's a regular dictionary, it means this is the common one, or this is more common. Normally, I mean, illustrated dictionaries are not as common as the other dictionaries, right? Okay, good. So I expect that all of us have just dictionaries, right? Regular dictionaries. And some of us may have an illustrated dictionary from perhaps childhood when they were kids, right? Okay, good. So this is what is meant by illustrated. Illustrated, excuse me, means that you have pictures and tables and stuff. Okay, so what does each illustration show? So where are the illustrations? These are illustrations. Can you see them? Okay, so how many illustrations do we have? Eight. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Yes, good. طيب. Uh, let me ask you another question about. They are eight. Yes. What do they have in common? Remember, you remember this expression when things have uh, something in common. It means that they share features. They are similar in some way, somehow. So what do they have in common? What is the common topic that ties them together? Okay, Fairuz is saying that they are all papers, right? Okay, and Mansoor is saying that they are news and they are letters. Okay, good. Turkey is saying they all bring or get out news. That's a very good way of putting it. Yes, old news, you know, outlets. Let me put it this way. Yeah, that's good, ya Dua. Okay. Remember at one point we said that we're going to talk about the history of newspapers or the history of news, right? So obviously the pictures. Remember when we have pictures, what do we do with them? Remember how we talk about them? So you said that you have 8 pictures, and what is common about them would be the fact that they carry or get news. Some of them are newspapers, like you're saying, old as they are. Yes, that's correct. Good. Okay. Remember, pictures. If you have a picture, it can be a picture of people, places, things, or animals. Right? So some of these pictures have people in them. Right? Can you see people in some of them? And in some others, you only have uh, printed words. Words. Okay? Paragraphs and. Okay. So again, we're talking about the history and the evolution of newspapers and the news in general. So I'm hopeful that you made the connection and perhaps you got to know that at one point it wasn't a newspaper that you had. In order to get the news, some people go around and they loudly give you the news. And we see that in some of the some old serials, TV serials, where you have الحاضر يعلم الغايب, and I think you're familiar with that, right? So at one point you have people moving around, and their main job would be to spread the news about something, right? Yes, like Abdel Fattah is saying, through their voice, right? They make announcements, like Mansour is saying, and then over time we have developments, and right, and newspapers develop into what we see now. Okay, what do we see now? You have a newspaper, you have a paper, and it's called newspaper because it carries news, and then it is delivered to your home. Okay, or you can access it on the internet. Even not having a newspaper nowadays is a stage in and of itself. We are behind, or actually we are beyond the stage of hard copies of newspapers. We don't have that anymore. We of course we still have newspapers, like someone said that we only see them on planes. When we travel, you have the choice of grabbing up a newspaper and read it. Otherwise, we don't see them much, right? Okay, so Abdul Fattah is saying at one point you would have somebody roaming around, and at another point he would have a megaphone or a microphone, and he spreads the news. So this is obviously history that we're seeing. And even in some villages, it used to happen. For example, even in the Arab world, you would have people in the villages. They don't have access to education. You don't have so many people who can read and write. So I mean, their relatives would send them letters. Okay, and somebody who knows how to read and write would sit perhaps in the middle, and he would read the letter out loud, right? This is also sharing news, but this is perhaps on the individual level. Okay, is that clear? Mansour is saying, like Bilal in the beginning of Islam, uh, he used the azan on a high ground. Yeah, that's correct. In order to spread the news that it's time for people to pray. Yeah, that's correct. This is also a variation on what we're obviously talking about. That's good. That's a good example, Mansour. So understanding the organization of a lecture. It's all about a lecture or a class like this one, and we're looking at how the class or the lecture is organized. So why are we doing that? So that when you go to a lecture, you can always expect what is going to happen. You know that at the beginning the lecturer or the class teacher is going to say this, and then in the middle he's going to say that, and at the end he's going to end in this or that way. Okay, but there is a pattern for everything, even in classes. When I start, like you see, you can almost tell teachers all start like this. We start with what we call a warm up. A warm up is we're getting you ready for the class by giving you exercises and stuff. I don't start right away. Do I start right away, or I give you perhaps I talk to you, I crack a joke, and right, and then I give you an exercise. This is called warm up, right? And this is actually what we do in this is what you're going to see even in lectures and stuff. So again, there is a pattern for everything, and this pattern gets repeated. Okay, So you're going to listen to a lecture on the early history of the mass media. Okay, so it's a lecture, a class on the early history of the mass media. So you need to keep asking yourself. So it's a lecture. Now you say, oh, okay, a lecture on what or about what? About the history. History of what? The history of the mass media. Okay, so obviously the history of mass media is so big and so long. Okay, I'll tell you. Listen, he says it's the early history. So when I say the early history, I talk do I go as far as talking about media now? No, obviously no, because I'm telling you, I'm telling you the early history. So you don't expect me to write about, to talk about things that are happening now, right? If he says the late history or the latest history, in this case, you expect him to talk about things happening now, right? So early, right? Early and late are synonyms or antonyms? I'm asking you. Early and late are antonyms or synonyms? This is taking too long. What's wrong? Of course not, ya Fairuz. Of course not. Early and late. Let me ask you this question in a different. Is coming early like coming late, ya Fairuz? Is coming early like coming late? They are antonyms, like Mansour is saying. Antonyms are opposites, right? Antonyms are opposites, while synonyms are similar things. Okay. So again, you're going to listen to a lecture on the early history of the mass media. Okay. Study the student notes. Remember, when we listen to something, when we are in a class, we take down notes, and we talk about taking down notes, and we also talked about the different note-taking styles. Remember, some of you said that I write in points. Some others said that I have spider grams. Others said that I write in a table. Some people said that we write in paragraphs. Okay. The bottom line would be that you take down notes because your memory is short. You can't remember everything. Still remember that? Okay. And here are notes taken by one of the students. Okay. What are the notes that he has taken, or he or she, of course? Obviously, those notes he has taken from the lecture, right? He said, his style is points. He's writing points, right? Like some of you. So spoken news, it means that he has heard this category or this section. Written news, there is a section on written news in the lecture. Printing and early newspapers. It means that he has seen also that. Is that clear? This is note taking. So what are we going to do now? We're going to go to the script of the listening at the end of the book and read it. Okay. But this is going to be 3.2, and I'll go all the way to transcripts, and I'm going to 3.2. Let me check. is it 3.4? I need 3.2. Okay. What's happening? Okay, can you read that? So you have track 3.2. I would like, is it clear enough? Yalla, go ahead, read it. Done? Well, Taman, I appreciate the fact that you guys are taking your time, because it has so many things that perhaps needs focus, right? Okay, good. So this is what? This is a typical introduction, right? And when I say that something typical, it means it is expected, right? So what do you expect in an introduction? What do you expect in a typical introduction? Fairuz is saying it tells about the things you're going to talk about. Absolutely, yes. It's like I mean, an outline, if you like. You know what an outline is? Okay, outline means that it outlines to you. It gives you, uh, you know, brief ideas about what the writer, if we talk about a writer, or the speaker, if we talk about the speaker, or the lecturer, if we talk about the lecture, what he or she intends to do. Okay, so I'm not talking about details yet. I'm telling you what to expect in an introduction, ya Mansoor. So typical introductions, whether these introductions are introductions in a lecture or introductions in writing or even in presentations, they start off with you know, guidelines or a list of the things that they are going to talk about. So they start off very general, like we say. I mean, they give you a general idea of what they intend to do, and then in the rest of the lecture or in the rest of the writing, they give you details, right? And they tell you in the introduction, remember, listen, I'm going to talk about this and I'm not going to talk about that. Okay? They limit your expectations. They curb your expectation. Otherwise, if you know that the lecture today is about the history of mass media, okay, the history of mass media, then comes the introduction and tells you, listen, the history of mass media is so big, I cannot cover that in a lecture, in only one lecture. I limit myself to early history. That's why you have the word early history. Listen, I cannot talk about all media and all the content and material of media. I cannot, for example, talk about entertainment. I'm going to focus on news. Right? This is the function and the purpose of an introduction. It limits, it gives you a list of the things that the writer or the lecturer is going to talk about, but it limits your expectations. Yes, yes, yeah, Fattah. Okay. So did we have that? Was this, in other words, was this a typical introduction? Typical means that you expected what happened in the introduction. What do you expect? You expect an outline, brief ideas about what the lecturer is going to talk about. And he or she even started this way. I am going to talk about, okay, I'm going to talk about the early history of the mass media for news. Okay, she said the early history. Okay, again she wants to make sure that you got it, that it is the early history. That's why she says, she comes again and says, I am not going to talk about the complete history today. See, she is emphasizing or stressing the idea that she cannot talk about everything today. Okay, she said it 3 ways or 3 times. She said, I'm going to talk about the early history of the mass media for news. And then she said, I'm not going to talk about the complete history today. And then she said, just the early history. Okay? What did she say after that? I'm not going to talk about the mass media for entertainment. Very specific. No entertainment. I'm not going to talk about entertainment. So what is it that you're going to talk about? I am going to talk about the mass media for news. So what happens if you see her talk about, if you hear her talk, her or him, of course, if you hear him in the rest of the lecture talk about entertainment, is that correct? No, because he or she promised us to only talk about news. What happens if you see him or hear him or her talk about not only the early history but even the modern history of mass media? Would that be good? No. You know how I look at introductions? Whether these introductions are introductions in classes and lectures, or whether these are introductions in writing or in books. I see the introduction like a contract. Are you familiar with a contract or an agreement? When you have an agreement or a contract, right? With a contract or an agreement, you have 2 sides, right? You for example, you're going to get hired in a company. They give you a contract. They say, sign here, these are the terms of the contract, right? The introduction of a piece of writing or the introduction of a lecture is like a contract that has 2 sides, that has the presenter of the lecture or the writer if it's a piece of writing, and the reader, or you, for example, as a student in a lecture. Okay, the introduction, I give you the terms. I say, listen, I'm going to do this and this, and I'm not going to do this, that. Okay. Okay, and I proceed with the rest of the lecture, and you yourself go and check whether I have fulfilled what I said or not. I made a number of promises in the contract, in the introduction. I said I'm going to talk about this, this. I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to talk about this. So while listening to me in a lecture, or while reading me in a book that I have published, for example, you read and you check. Dr. Sameh said in the introduction of the class that he's going to talk about this and this and this, but he didn't talk about this and this and this. Am I doing a good job then? No, no. If I say in the introduction, if I say in the contract that I'm going to talk about this and this and this, and I don't, I'm not doing a good job. You yourself, when you write, okay, you write an essay, for example, or a paragraph, and you say that I'm going to talk about this and that, I'm not going to talk about this and that, and I go and I read. But this is what I'm going to do actually. You have a TMA and you have submitted the TMA. So what am I going to do? I'm going to download the TMA, right? And I'm going to look at question number 1. And I'm going to look at the paragraph. The paragraph, you said there was a small introduction where you said I'm going to talk about this. You don't say I'm going to talk about this in a direct way, okay? But it shows that you intend to do that, right? And then I read, okay. So Fairuz said that she's going to talk about it, but she didn't talk about it. Where are they? Okay, she didn't say in the introduction that she's going to talk about something, and I found her talking about it. This is also the same mistake. So you say it's like a promise. Okay, you give a promise. You say, listen, I have taken 100 riyals from you. Okay, so and I'll give them back tomorrow. So I come tomorrow and I give you the money. This is good. This is fulfilling the promise, right? So what happens if I don't come tomorrow? Isn't that bad enough? Bad, right? Yeah, bad. It's the same thing. You're writing and you're saying in the introduction, I promise. You don't say I promise, of course, but we feel it. It's as if you're saying, I promise that I'm going to talk about this. And I go to the rest of the paragraph or the rest of the essay and I don't see you writing about them. You write about something else. Is that good? No, it's not good, right? So in this case, I'm not fulfilling my promise. If I keep this in mind, introductions are made so that people gives you clues about what they are planning to do in the rest of the work, whether it's a lecture or a piece of writing or whatever the case is. So the whole thing is about keeping the promises that you make in the introduction. Yes. Okay, good. So we have read the introduction. So it's now time that we check whether the lecturer has fulfilled the promises that she made in the introduction or not. Right? Can we go and check? Yes, we can. Okay. Okay, let's read. Can you see that? And I think you have the book handy with you, right? You guys have the book. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have to be a hard copy of the book. Don't get me wrong. It can be also a soft copy, right? So I would like you to read track 3.3. And what is it that we're going to look for? We're going to check whether the lecturer fulfilled her promises or not. Remind me of her promises in the introduction. Do you still remember her promises? What did she promise to do? And what did she promise not to do? Remind me before we start. Hello. So she had a number of promises. She said that she's going to talk about the early history of mass media. The early history, right? And she said that she's not going to talk about the whole history of mass media. Yes. She also promised to focus or to talk only about the history of news. She promised not to talk about entertainment, right? So what did she say about entertainment? She said that she perhaps can talk about it in a different class, right? Okay, now go to track 3.3, which you have on the screen, and read it. Try to understand it, and then check whether she fulfilled her promises or not. Can we do that? Yes, we can. I'll give you perhaps 4 minutes for that because it's a little bit long. Can we do that? Yeah, go ahead. Let me know when you have finished.